I'm your host, Taylor Ann Carpenter, and welcome to The Talk Chamber, a production of the Greater Memphis Chamber. The Talk Chamber is the podcast for the latest on the Chamber, economic development, and all things Memphis. Our episode today is a delicious one. We have a guest from Memphis restaurant legend. Welcome, Alex Boggs with Huey's Restaurant.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Taylor Ann. I want to give a huge thank you to you and a huge thank you to the Greater Memphis Chamber. I'm thrilled to be here.
Of course, we are so glad to have you. We love Huey's. And Huey's has been a Memphis staple for 55 years now. Can you take us back to the beginning and how did Huey's get started and tell us what the vision behind it was?
Absolutely. And that's a super fun story. Huey's started in 1970. And a gentleman named Alan Gary was actually a restaurant mind here in town. And he started Huey's, he started the Half Shell, and he started the Belmont Grill. He was a big-time visionary for concepts and for restaurants. But Huey's was his bar. It was kind of the play area. It was the late-night place in Midtown. It was what they said would be dead until midnight and then all of a sudden just blow up like a volcano. And they had a very good time doing it. My dad got involved in Huey's in about 1976, and he came from the background of TGI Fridays. So the second TGI Fridays in the country was actually here in Memphis. And so when they started to grow and they started to expand, they took a group of Memphians and they took them to Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, and they started opening up the Fridays concept. And with that background, my dad knew that the future was food, was full service, and that was really the way to operate a successful restaurant. So when he got to Huey's, he was bartending, he was doing the books, and he started putting a huge emphasis on the rest of it. Fortunately for us, he made himself invaluable to the operation, mentioned that to the owners, and they let him buy in. So he became part of the ownership group, and then one by one started to purchase out the rest of them. And now it's the Boggs family that's running the establishment.
All right. So let's hear a little bit about you specifically now, Alex.
Well, first off, I'm blessed. I always say I'm the one that comes from good stock. And so my family's always been in the restaurant business. My mom's mother was in the restaurant business. My mom had her own restaurant named Fulton's. My dad obviously has restaurant background for days, and my three big sisters have always worked in the industry as well. My little brother and I grew up working in Huey's, doing prep, helping do the skewers. We were so young we weren't allowed to touch knives. We couldn't touch the slicer. We weren't allowed to go near any of the hot equipment, but we loved being a part of it. And I knew since I was probably 10 years old that I wanted to work in Huey's. I wanted to run Huey's. I wanted to be with my family, and I wanted to be a part of the organization. So it was always fun for me. I majored in restaurant management. And when I came back from college, I immediately went back to work at Huey's. And after a couple of years, I decided to leave the company at the encouragement from my family to stay in the business, but to get some outside experience. It's not really going to do Huey's a lot of good if the only place I've ever worked in my life is Huey's. So I went to Panera Bread, said, why do they have 1,600 stores? Why are they so good at this? I went and worked at U.S. Food Service as how do you sell food? How do you work in an organization like this? Did some restaurant consulting. And a really fun chapter was I worked for Tommy Peters at B.B. King's organization. And so I worked at Itabina, B.B. King's, and we opened up Lafayette's Music Room back in Midtown for the second iteration. And as they say, a couple of years later, Mama called, and it was time for me to come back to the organization. Fortunately, they welcomed me back with open arms. I came back into management with us and moved into general manager role. And now I'm an area director and the marketing director in our home office.
Awesome. And how long have you been back with Huey's?
I've been back with Huey's right at 7 years.
Okay, that's great. I want to dive into Huey's a little bit more. What's the heart and soul of Huey's, and what role do you play in keeping that alive?
Well, I think it's three main pieces. Is our customers. Our customers are the ones who support us. They take care of us on a day-to-day basis. Fortunately, they love Huey's. A lot of them have been coming to Huey's since they were as young as they can remember. Now they're bringing in their kids or they're bringing back their parents. Our staff has a ton to do with it. They're the ones that are on the front lines. They're who we are. They're what we do. We would not be here without them. We've got about 750 staff these days, and we're super proud of them, the way they support us. And we just want to empower them to be good representatives. But when you really talk about Huey's, a lot of it is the family, a true family-run business in the city of Memphis. My mom, a ton of the menu items coming from her. My little brother did the mural on the wall on Madison Avenue at Huey's Midtown. My three big sisters have been running the show for decades now. They're fantastic at what they do. And probably the highlight of my career is getting to work with them day in and day out. And it's so much fun to see them working in the stores, to be running shifts, to go work lunch at Huey's Midtown or Huey's Southwind, or go do a trivia night together as a family at one of the stores. It's just a delight to be a part of it.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Huey's is, I have lots of memories from Huey's. And when I have friends not from here come into town, I'm like, I know where we're going. And it's always Huey's because it's always an experience and you always get that family feel. It's just a good time. You never have, I don't walk into Huey's with a sad face. And if I do, I'm always walking out with a smile. Huey's is known for its burgers, but it's also got a unique Memphis personality. Can you tell us about what makes the Huey's experience so special?
Well, one of the special things about it is now that we've been around for so long is we're a part of a lot of people's memories. And whether you go in there after a graduation, which we have been doing a ton of this past month, or whether you go in there on a first date or coming in after your wedding. I mean, just at Huey's Midtown a couple of weeks ago, we had a couple come in their wedding dress and their tuxedo. And they had gotten married. They wanted to come in there and have a little bit of a toast. They had had some fun experiences in the restaurant, and they wanted to cap their night off in there. And being a part of people's lives and people's memories makes it so special for us. And Huey's just kind of has something for everyone. Especially during the holidays, we say there's not a lot of places you can bring your newborn son or daughter, and you can also bring your grandma or your grandpa. And Huey's is one of the places that checks that box.
Definitely. So you started at the Midtown location, is that correct?
That's correct, at the corner of Madison and Tucker in Midtown.
Okay, and then as most people know, y'all have expanded. Y'all have got locations in East Memphis, Germantown. Y'all have even, I think, South Haven.
So we've got 10 of them these days, 2 in northern Mississippi, Olive Branch and South Haven. We go up on Highway 51 with Millington. All the rest are kind of just spread across Memphis and the suburbs.
So how do you balance keeping that local neighborhood feel while growing and while having now 10 locations?
Well, Huey started off, and one of the reasons that we firmly believe Huey's has had success is my dad always said, if you invest in the community is going to give back to you. And it is a huge pillar of who we are. It is one of our core values. And we take that very seriously. Every time that we go somewhere new, we do our best to immediately invest in the community. Obviously, here with the Greater Memphis Chamber, we do that. But also every time we go to a new suburb, whether it's the South Haven Chamber of Commerce, the Collierville Chamber of Commerce, the Germantown, we get involved as soon as we can. We put people in boards in that community and leadership positions if they'll have us. And we always kind of joke, if you go to any soccer field or softball field in the city of Memphis or in the greater Memphis area, I promise you, if you go see a softball game in Olive Branch next week, you're going to see our banner in the outfield. If you go to the band performance up in Munford, you're going to see a Huey sponsorship sign somewhere. We really want to get involved. And one of the fun first phone calls that we make every time we open up a new store is to the high schools. And we say, we want your stuff. What can you bring us? What can we hang on the walls? And I was fortunate enough to run the Millington location for a couple of years. And when I first got up there, you love looking around and seeing the different posters or pictures. And I did giggle because, one of the funniest things on the wall was my grandparents' church directory photo. And so I laughed on which one of my sisters pulled that out of their attic or my mom pulled out of her attic. But I saw all the football jerseys. And they've got an entire corner that's Covington, Munford, Tipton Rosemark, all up right there on the wall. And those are the things that we do, is we immediately want to get involved with them and let them know, we're here, but this is your community. We want to be a part of it if you'll have us. And fortunately, they have.
That kind of leads into my next question. How do you see Huey's contributing to the city's identity and into economic growth?
Well, at the end of the day, Memphis is everything. We love Memphis. I firmly believe Memphis is the greatest city in the world. And I'm a positive Polly, and my buddies can kind of laugh at me when I say that. But when you look at what we do, the home of barbecue for the entire world, the birthplace of the blues, the city of rock and roll, everything that Memphis has, including one of the strongest restaurant communities and hospitality communities in the entire country, Memphis has it all going on. We've had our ups and downs, but we're heading up right now. And we love Memphis. We've had opportunities. We could have been in Little Rock 20 years ago. We could have been in Nashville 10 years ago. We could have been in Oxford or Destin whenever we really wanted to, and we choose to stay here in Memphis, to invest in our city, and to give as many employees as we can possibly get our hands on a chance to pay their bills, pay their mortgages, send their kids through school. And if we can do that by selling cheeseburgers we're going to continue to do that and be a part of Memphis's heart and soul.
I love it. So Huey's has recently celebrated this huge milestone, their 55th anniversary. And that in and of itself, regardless of industry, is a huge milestone. But especially in the restaurant industry, that's a huge milestone. Can you share what that moment means for Huey's and how you guys marked the occasion?
Absolutely. It means everything to us. And it has been very surreal. And we wanted to have a big celebration for our 50th milestone. And of course, we turned 50 in April of 2020. So you can imagine that party got canceled very quickly. And so we rolled it into our 55th. But when we talk about personally on the family level, we think about my dad a lot. And we carry on his legacy. We think about his legacy a lot. And we try and stick to that. We try and stick to who we are and what we do. And the fact that, like you said, in the restaurant business of all industries, we've made it to 55 years is not lost on us, that it's a blessing. There has been a lot of hard work that's gone into it. There's been a lot of fun that's gone into it for sure as well. But for us to do that meant the world to our staff, to our families. And so we decided that we needed to not only throw our staff a big party, throw our customers a big party, but we wanted to open it up and throw the city of Memphis a big party. So we shut down the intersection, Madison and Tucker at Huey's Midtown, the original location, AKA Thomas Boggs Boulevard. We shut it down and we got involved with local groups. So we immediately called Natalie over at the Overland Park Shell, one of the great Memphians, got the Shell on Wheels set into the middle of it. We got a killer band lined up, headlined by Lucero, but also featuring a ton of fantastic Memphis musicians, blues artists, all sorts of genres. We called Pronto Pops. We called Mem Pops. Of course, we served our Huey's cheeseburgers all over the place. We brought in one of the champions at the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Competition, Sweet Cheeks. They came and did barbecue nachos for us. And then we set up a huge kids zone, a huge activity center, petting zoo, all the likes. And we just tried to invite everybody we could. And we wanted to say, this is free for everybody. Come on and enjoy. Come be a part of what we're doing, because we owe this to all of y'all. It's not lost on us that we would not be here without Memphis, our staff, and these guests. So we needed to treat them to something. And we had a very good time doing it.
I had the opportunity to attend for a couple hours. It was awesome. For anybody who didn't attend, they had the streets blocked off. There was parking, people lining the sides of the road trying to park and get in. But it was just so much fun. There was just a great buzz. It was a beautiful day. And it was just such a fun celebration. I know we had a few other of the chamber team there celebrating, and y'all did the ribbon cutting. And it was just a good time and just fun to celebrate something that so many people love and so many people, cherish. It was just so fun to see so many people. I mean, I know I ran into tons of people that I've known throughout the years celebrating one thing we all have in common, and that's Huey's.
Yeah, it was very fun, and we loved having y'all out there, and we did a fantastic ribbon cutting, and it was almost very humbling. I mean, there were so many hugs that you got to give out, so many friends you got to see, so many kids running around you got to see, but it was a very good reminder of how blessed we are.
What do you think the key to Huey's continued success has been for 5 decades?
Consistency. And that's, when you think of consistency, that's twofold. And in our food, we want to make sure our food and our service are consistent. We want to make sure you know what you're getting into. We want to hopefully make sure you see the same servers and bartenders when you come into our locations. A lot of times they know you by name. A lot of times you know them by name. You walk in and you say, hey, we're so-and-so section. I want to make sure I sit with them. Or, you walk in and they say, Taylor Ann, how you doing? Come on right over here. And we hope that is day in and day out. And we kind of joke, it's wonderful to have a 10 out of 10 cheeseburger. But is it better to have an 8.5 out of 10 every single time the guest comes in? And we want to make sure that our food is as consistent as possible. And internally for us, consistency in running the organization. I mean, running any good restaurant means you've got to know and manage what your food cost is. Any restaurateur knows to know your food cost, you've got to do inventory. Nobody likes doing inventory. Well, a few crazies of us do, but to be consistent enough to come in every Monday or every Tuesday at 6 a.m. and count every single product in your restaurant, you have to be consistent. You have to be disciplined. And that's just one small example of the things that we do on an internal level to make sure that you do get the same experience every single time.
So looking ahead, how does this legacy shape Huey's next 55 years, whether that's a new location, a menu, spotlight or just staying connected to Memphis? What's next?
Well, we're always, looking to see if there is room for more locations. We're never really sure what that answer is. It's more of an art, not a science, but we always have our ears to the ground. But for Huey's, we just celebrated this huge milestone. We've had changes in place. We've had new faces in place. We want it to feel the same. So our big feature is back to the basics. We want to make sure that when you walk in, you're going to get treated the same way every time. You're going to get offered, a couple of different appetizers. We want you to know that, hey, are you going to get the cheese fry or the fried pickles today? We want to thank you every time that you're leaving and walking out of the doors. We want to scream welcome to Huey's every time that you come in, not only once, but hopefully 2 or 3 different people. But we know that if we get back to our basics, we stick with that, we've got 55 more years in us.
That's great. So, of course, we've talked about how Huey's has its deep roots in Memphis. What is it about the city that makes it the perfect home for a restaurant like Huey's?
Well, Memphis loves Memphis, and Huey's loves Memphis, and we love Memphis. The Boggs family does. And Memphians support people who support their city. And whether that's a basketball coach that invests in our city, whether that is different people coming in, whether that is, mayoral candidates or whoever it is, restaurants. Memphians love people that love Memphis, and we're at the top of the list for that.
That's so true. That just makes me think of all the times I've gone to somewhere and done something because it's a Memphian who loves Memphis. And so me as a Memphian, I go there and support them.
Absolutely. We want to support the people that support us. We do the same thing. We want to make sure we're taking care of the restaurants that are part of the Memphis Restaurant Association. We want to make sure that we're going to the businesses that are part of the chamber. We want to make sure that we're supporting people who are invested in what we're invested in.
From your perspective, running a business that's a Memphis icon, what's one thing our city is doing right to support business and business growth?
Well, I mentioned earlier that I firmly believe Memphis is on the up right now. And probably one of the most impressive things to me is leadership being present and leadership listening. And that doesn't happen in a lot of cities, whether they're big cities, small towns. You don't always see the boots on the ground like that. Just yesterday, Mayor Young was at my wife's school, Libertas, for one of their groundbreakings for a new organization that they've got going on over there. Mayor Harris was at the Memphis Restaurant Association Food Festival just a couple of months back. Mr. Townsend was at a Smokesland Barbecue Festival this weekend, walking tent to tent, greeting people, thanking out-of-towners for being there, thanking Memphians for putting their money into throwing these tents and hosting these parties. That is not the normal. And for our leadership at all those different, that's just 3 examples, but for our leadership to be in the city, listening to people, talking to people, the fact that any old Memphian can just walk up at tons of different places and times a year and events and shake the mayor's hand and talk to them about things, that doesn't happen everywhere. And I think that's one of the most impressive things about what Memphis has going for it right now.
The Greater Memphis Chamber works to attract businesses and talent. As folks who have built a brand here, what makes Memphis a compelling pitch to newcomers, whether they're diners or entrepreneurs?
Gosh, how long do you have? Well, the first answer, the right answer is food. We are probably the most underrated food city in the entire country. Our food is fantastic, and that doesn't matter whether you want white tablecloth, whether you want sloppy barbecue sauce falling down your elbows. Memphis has something for everybody, and everybody likes to eat. Everybody has to eat, but everybody likes to eat, and Memphis can sell that better than anybody else. But we're a big little town. People know people. Everyone knows everything. Great housing, great cost of living. Memphis has a ton going for it. You could sell just about every aspect of our city right now.
I 100% agree. From professional sports that we have in the Grizzlies, if you've never been to one of those games, they're a blast. I know you have. From our music scene, and then just our people. I think we've got great people here who, have a certain charm to them, and, like you show at Huey's, they greet you at the door, they say hello, they smile.
One of the biggest takeaways from Memphians when we talk to outsiders, whether it's in the restaurants or my buddies or whoever is coming to visit, Memphians are nice. And when you go visit other places, not everybody talks to you when you're walking down the street. Not all the bartenders are going to give you 1 recommendation, 2 recommendations, but okay, hold on a second. Where are you going? Here's the tourist places you need to go. Here's the bars you need to go. Here's where you need to go listen to live music. And you'll walk out of this place with a whole legal pad full of here's what I need to do the next little bit. we're going to scratch the list that me and my wife put together, on the internet. We're going to take what this guy told us because he knew what he was talking about. But Memphians are nice, and they and we take the time to do that for internally and for outsiders and for visitors that are coming to our city, for sure.
Huey's is more than a restaurant. It's a community hub. What are some ways Huey's gives back to Memphis, whether that's through events, charities, or partnerships?
Well, this is, once again, just one of our big values we have at Huey's is giving back and supporting our community. And we are on tons of boards across town. We love being a part of them. We like supporting different things, whether it's education, MIFA, the Memphis Restaurant Association, Church Health Center, the Overton Park Shell, Youth Villages, a tremendous list of organizations go on and on. In regards to events, we do dozens of events, and we want to support as many people as we possibly can. Special Olympics chili cook-off, everybody else that I just listed right there. Whoever has got something going on, we want to be a part of it. Le Bon Appetit, all these different things, all these different groups and organizations, they do a fantastic job, and we need to make sure that we're showing our support for them.
That also reminds me of what you said at the beginning of this episode about calling up the schools when starting a new area and asking for their jerseys. That's another thing. I know at my high school, we had a Huey's banner on our football field, and everywhere I go, there's a little touch of Huey somewhere.
We love doing that. That's the fun part of what we do. Restaurant business is tough. Getting out and putting smiles on people's faces. On Thursdays, our home office breaks out of the office and we all go read to schools. And so we're reading to, kindergarten through second grade over at Idlewild right across the street. We're doing teacher luncheons, teacher appreciation weeks. It's so much fun for us to be able to give back to people and put smiles on their faces.
I can clearly hear the passion and the excitement you have for Memphis and for Huey's. Do you have a personal story about a community moment that Huey's was involved in that really stood out to you?
Well, I definitely do. And there's a lot of them. A lot of them make me think of my family. A lot of them make me think of my dad. And I'm actually going to change that question a little bit. Let me tell you something that I've got coming up that we are so excited to do and be a part of is we just had this awesome 55th anniversary. And part of the thing that we marketed is that we're going to put a bunch of the support and donations towards the Church Health Center. And Huey's and the Church Health Center have been hand in hand for decades. Scott Morris has been such a great cheerleader for Huey's, but more importantly for Memphis for years. And he is truly one of the great Memphians, and he was a very close friend of my dad's. They helped put together the Memphis Plan, supporting hospitality workers, supporting musicians, both of which our family is. And we've been tied in with them for a long time. And so we're super excited that due to the funds that we raised for our anniversary, next month we're going to go meet Dr. Morris, the new team at the Church Health Center as well, and we're going to present them with a check for $10,000.
That's incredible.
And when you think about the history, the legacy, but also me personally getting to do that, I can't tell you how excited I am and how fun of a full circle moment that's going to be for our family. That's
very exciting. That's awesome. Congratulations. That's just how Memphis shows up and how Huey shows up.
Absolutely.
So, I guess you just kind of touched on that. Memphis is always evolving, but how do you see Huey's helping shape the city's future, especially for the next generation?
Well, we want to give opportunities. And when I say Huey's wants to provide opportunities, two different ways. Obviously, we would love to be everybody's first job. You got to get a first job somewhere. There's no better place than being at the front door of a Huey's saying, "Welcome to Huey's. How many are you going to have in your party today?" And we love having the high schoolers work for us all across this area. And if they want to stay with us, fantastic. We love them to move into serving, to bartending. We love them to move into management. If not, that's perfectly fine if they want to go into a different career. But you got to start making money to buy gas to drive yourself to school or to take your girlfriend to the movies when you're 17 somewhere. And we love being a part of providing those opportunities. But also going back to everything that I just told you, for people that aren't going to be at a Huey's or aren't going to be in our industry, we want to provide Memphians opportunities by supporting youth villages, by supporting MIFA, by having our home office team break out and go do Meals on Wheels. And the way that we can give opportunities to Memphians outside of our four walls is very important to us.
Could you actually touch a little bit on the Meals on Wheels, what y'all do with them?
So yeah, my sister Ashley's on the board of MIFA. We think that they are just one of the best organizations in the city. We've gone and toured their facilities, and Memphis has a need. Memphis has a hunger issue. they have a waiting list for Meals on Wheels. So one, support MIFA because they are delightful people and a wonderful organization that's doing things nobody else in the city is doing. But we do. Our home office breaks out and everybody divides up routes. They hop in the cars, we get the coolers, and we drive around different neighborhoods, and we all, take them to the door. We get to say a few words to the folks, ask them how their day's going. They thank us for being there. It is a super fun experience for us to get to do, and we love what Meals on Wheels does, and we love supporting them and being a small part of what MIFA does.
And when you say the home office, is that just...
So that's our support staff,
Okay.
The people that are helping us with our marketing, with our payroll, with all those other things. They're not in the restaurants every single day. And so they do have a little bit more bandwidth, but even some of our managers do it. And we'll put it on their schedule and they can come hop in the car and we all just go house to house.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Huey's has been around for 55 years, which means adapting to change. What are some key innovations, whether that's the menu, technology, or just general operations that have helped Huey's stay relevant and keep this continued growth?
Well, technology is a huge part of it. In the early days, everything was done on a legal pad. The cash register is having to get your change and type in all the numbers compared to the way we do everything so quickly now has been a huge function of it. But the menu has been something that we are always scared of. We know we want to try new things. We know we want to sometimes have to take things off the menu, but we know Memphians love their Huey's items. And so it's a very scary process because one, if we take something away, we know we're hurting somebody's feelings and we take that very seriously. But more importantly, when we add something, we know it has to meet our standards. Our guest standards are there for sure, but our standards internally, when we test new items, we're not talking testing something a dozen times. We're talking about testing something every different way, up to hundreds of different times. And the smash burger is a good example. We brought that on the menu last year. It has been a tremendous success for us. We knew there was a need for a smash burger. But for 54 years, we said in Huey's and we trained our employees, never squish a burger. Don't you dare put that spatula on top of a Huey's burger as it's cooking. Whether you want it well done or whether you want it medium rare, it doesn't matter. That juice is going to come out as soon as you squish it. And we are not going to do that. But we saw what was coming on with smash burgers. We knew the way that they were, taking the place by storm. And so we did so much testing. Once we started training it, we did get some side-eyed looks from some of our longtime grill cooks. And a couple of our folks were very nervous about it. And one of them looked at me and goes, your dad would not like this. Your dad told us so many times to not squish this burger. I said, well, I know, but this is different. This is the one time that's okay. But that was a huge undertaking for us to put on mentally and just getting the process right. And it's turned into a great seller for us. And Memphians have told us they love the smash burger. If I took the smash burger off, my email would be so full I would never get to leave the office from responding to them right now. But we know that we have to continue to grow. We like to do it slowly and we like to do it surely. But once we've made a move, we want to know that we've put every piece of effort we can into it.
So just going a little further into that, how do you go through those menu changes? How do you kind of decide that you might want to try something new? What's that start to finish process?
Well, a lot of times it's when we feel that there's a need for something. Sometimes it can be sales driven. Sometimes it can be just menu driven. Sometimes it can be what you're seeing across the country. We study all sorts of restaurant trends. We have so many subscriptions to Nation's Restaurant News and every sort of publication nationally that you can about what's happening in our industry. We do our best to pay attention to it, even when we don't make a lot of changes, even when we don't react very quickly. We want to know what everybody else is doing. We want to know what's going on. But other times it's, internal change is an internal need. And we are a family establishment. We love being family friendly. But as I said, we started out as a bar. And in 2008, when the smoking ban came to be effect, it hurt our sales tremendously. And we lost a ton of business with that. We did not want to be a bar ever again. But we also want to be your neighborhood bar where you can come in for a happy hour. We don't need to do the crazy. We don't need to do the late nights. We certainly aren't going to overserve anybody. But we did realize there was a need. So we put a ton of studying and effort into it. And we brought about our Monday through Friday 2-for-1 program and offering certain draft beers at 2-for-1 pricing, whether you want two of them in two smaller glasses, one of them in one bigger glass. But we knew that we needed to continue to grow and we needed to continue to adapt because a lot of what Huey's thoughts and memories are is walking in and seeing a pretty full bar at 5:15 as the night's getting started, or you want to be able to go ahead and grab one on your way home. like you have a tough work day and you need to go somewhere. So we needed to make sure that we filled that void. So we did a ton of market research. We did a ton of internal testing. We made sure we had the right glassware, the right products. We made sure we offered the right draft offerings, and we took it very seriously. But we knew we needed to put something into play.
So this is a fun question. What is your favorite Huey's menu item and why?
That's a great question. That is a fun question. I'm going to give two answers. One is the glutton and unhealthy one is going to be the cheese tots. I just cannot get enough of the cheese tots. They are as good as it gets. I know they're not great for me. I know I put way too much ranch dressing on there, probably too much bacon as well. But it's just hard to beat a Huey's cheese fry or cheese tater tot. Everybody's got their favorite. We brought in the tots about a decade ago. They've been a huge hit for us. But whether you're cheese fry or cheese tots, that is just a Memphis staple. But when I'm working, one of my favorites is the Fiesta chicken wrap. It's light, it's quick, it's easy. Not a ton of people know about it on our menu, but it is super fresh, grilled chicken breast. It is delicious. And of course, it comes with the famous Huey's Ranch as well.
Of course. That is the Huey's Ranch, everybody, is a big, big deal. I have friends who will go there specifically to have the ranch because that is their thing. They just love that ranch.
Everybody's got an opinion on Memphis ranches, and we firmly believe Huey's has the best one.
So I've got one more question for you, Alex. You shared a lot about Huey's and a lot about Memphis today. But to wrap up, what's one story or moment from Huey's that you feel embodies the spirit of Memphis and the spirit of Huey's?
Oh, wow. So there's a ton of those to choose from. There's a lot that come to mind. And for us, one specifically, and Huey's Downtown is one of our oldest establishments, and it's one of everybody's favorites. A lot of times you go there before events, after events, but one of the things that you don't think of with Huey's Downtown is how close we are to St. Jude. And every Huey's offers a St. Jude discount for any patient of St. Jude and one of their guardians or parents or whoever is with them. We want to make sure they're already having a tough time. They are in our city, not by choice. We want to make sure that they've got somewhere to go, somewhere that's going to be consistent, and we want to make sure we offer them a discount. But we were really fortunate. We had a long-term staff member at Huey's Downtown named JP, and he was one of everybody in the company's favorite managers for about 2 decades. And he actually works for the city now and left us on great terms, but he was with us for a long time, and he was one of the best managers we've ever had at connecting with guests. And he's an artist. And so he's walking around checking on tables, and he's got a table that's a St. Jude patient and their guardian, and she's sitting there drawing. And she's sitting there drawing. It was a fantastic piece of artwork, and so he sits down and talks to her, and are you an artist? Well, of course. And so he says, well, I'm an artist too. And so they ended up going back and forth for years. And even after she got good news, you still come back annually for your St. Jude checkup. And so every time that she would come in, she'd come to Huey's Downtown. JP would make sure, and they ended up trading contact with the parents. He stayed in touch with their family. They'd let him know when they were coming. They would trade artwork back and forth. But the way that he got to connect with them is one of the cool things about our industry is, as I said, in restaurants, you get to be a part of the events in people's lives. And this wasn't a good one. This wasn't a good, fun reason to be in a Huey's or to be in Memphis. And the little things that you can do, the little ways that we can change people's lives, the little way that we were so proud that our staff member, JP, was doing that, it was just as good as it gets. And it's so fun to be a part of those stories, to hear those stories, to hear him tell it, to hear my sister Ashley tell that story, just makes the hair on your arm stand up. And it's a blessing that we get to be a part of things like that. But the way we get to interact with some of the St. Jude folks that come to town, and that particular story of JP was just amazing.
I love that story. That is truly a Memphis story right there. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today on the Talk Chamber. I am so glad that you were able to sit down with me and chat.
Well, thank you for having me. This has just been absolutely delightful, and we're thrilled to be a part of it, and thank y'all for what you do.
Of course. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of The Talk Chamber. We really hope you enjoyed it. Let's all take a page out of Huey's book and give back to the community and give back often, because Memphis is one of the greatest cities. If you enjoyed this episode or learned a valuable piece of information, share it with a friend or a few. Subscribe to the Talk Chamber to keep up with the latest on the Chamber, economic development, and all things Memphis. Follow us on social media at Memphis Chamber. We'll see you next time.